and welcome to Self-Reliant India here on DD India, and today on the show we'll discuss about the innovative policies in the railway sector, and these policies are aimed at making railway system more profitable. We'll continue discussing about that over the course of 1 hour. Let me also introduce our guests who will be joining us shortly. We are pleased to have with us Mr. Sushant Kumar Mishra. He's the additional member Traffic Railway Board. Also Mr. Vijay Kumar Dutt, the former additional member Railway Board, and Mr. Himanshu Vats, the senior economic journalist. We'll be going across to all these guests in just a bit and talking more about the innovative policies. Okay, we have our guests here with us here on DD India. Mr. Mishra, if I can begin with you first, just for the benefit of our viewers, if you could emphasize on how these innovative policies in the railway sector has, really made railway system more profitable. The safety has been enhanced, there's been focus on enhanced safety, and how really, the policies in the freight sector, the parcel sector, has, really made the railway system more profitable. Mr. Mishra, that question is for you.
आपका voice ठीक से आ नहीं रहा है.
Mr. Mishra, can you hear me?
I am not able to hear you.
Okay, we'll try and reconnect with you in just a bit to have that audio link correct with us. If I can go across now to Mr. Vijay Kumar Dutt. Mr. Dutt, your analysis here as far as, the innovative policies the series of innovative policies taken by the government to make the railway system more profitable, enhance safety also, they're being at the center of these policies. Your comments, sir.
Thank you so much. The incentives announced are in the freight sector, parcel sector, passenger sector, and non-fare revenues. These are the need of the hours. But my take is, see, railways is most environment friendly medium. And now we are going to run railway totally on solar and non-renewable by 2030. So it will be most environment friendly. And energy consumed is 1/6 of what it is consumed on the road. So need of the hour is to go to railways. But the challenge is, in 1950, we had 80% share of railways, which has gone down to 27%. Freight and 10% only to passenger, and it is dwindling every year to the detriment of climate change world over.
Okay.
So the steps, basic thing is capacity. Everyone also railways, but the capacity was not increased.
Sure.
But 1400% capacity was increased for road. Railways it was only 26%. But with innovations, railway increased their capacity by 1300%, but it should have gone to up to 3000%. Now, since 2015-16, the steps have been taken to correct it. See, earlier allocation was 20,000 crores only. It has been gradually built to more than a lakh.
Okay. All right, Mr. Dutt, I request you to please continue being with us. We're just going across live now to Prime Minister Modi addressing a public rally. We'll come back and discuss more.
Thank you.
जानता हूं, खेती किसानी को अपने हाल पर छोड़कर टीएमसी सरकार सिर्फ अपने खेल में ही लगी रही. इन लोगों ने पुरलिया को दिया है जल संकट से भरा जीवन. इन लोगों ने पुरलिया को दिया है पलायन. इन लोगों ने पुरलिया के गरीबों को दिया है भेदभाव भरा शासन. इन लोगों ने पुरलिया की पहचान बनाई है देश के सबसे पिछड़े क्षेत्र के रूप में. ये लोग कैसे काम करते हैं, इसका बहुत बड़ा उदाहरण है पुरुलिया पाइप्ड वाटर सप्लाई प्रोजेक्ट. 8 साल हो गए, ये अब तक अधूरा पड़ा है. साहेब बांध सरोवर की स्थिति भी आपके सामने है. यहां के किसानों को, यहां के लोगों को इसका जवाब कौन देगा दीदी? दीदी, ये लोग आपसे जवाब मांग रहे हैं। जवाब मांग रहे हो कि नहीं मांग रहे हो? दीदी ने जवाब देना चाहिए कि नहीं देना चाहिए? दीदी ने अपना काम का हिसाब देना चाहिए कि नहीं देना चाहिए? अरे दीदी, बोछोर एयरपोर्ट, बोछोर धोरे, एकटा सेतुओ तैरी করতে পারলো না তৃণমূল। এখন বলছে উন্নয়নের কথা। और इसलिए आज मैं पुरलिया के लोगों को, पूरे जगलमहल क्षेत्र के लोगों को विश्वास दिलाने के लिए आया हूं। बंगाल में भाजपा सरकार बनने के बाद आपकी इन दिक्कतों को प्राथमिकता के आधार पर दूर किया जाएगा। जब बंगाल में डबल इंजन की सरकार बनेगी, एक दिल्ली का इंजन और दूसरा बंगाल का इंजन, जब डबल इंजन की सरकार बनेगी तो यहां विकास भी होगा और आपका जीवन भी आसान बनेगा। यहां पुरलिया में तो टूरिज्म की भी इतनी संभावनाएं हैं। यहां पर हैंडीक्राफ्ट का इतना बेहतरीन काम होता है, इन सभी को बढ़ावा दिया जाएगा। भाइयों और बहनों, इस क्षेत्र जैसा ही जल संकट देश के अन्य क्षेत्रों में भी रहा है। जहां जहां भाजपा को सेवा करने का मौका मिला, भाजपा सरकारों ने वहां सैकड़ों किलोमीटर लंबी पाइपलाइनें बिछाई, हजारों तालाब बनवाए और आज इन क्षेत्रों में पानी का संकट तेजी से दूर हो रहा है। पानी की उपलब्धता बढ़ी है तो आज वहां के किसान अलग अलग तरह की फसलों को उगाने लगे हैं। अब यही काम बंगाल के उन सभी क्षेत्रों में भी किया जाएगा जहां पानी की दिक्कतें हैं। साथियों, पुरलिया सहित इस पूरे क्षेत्र में विकास की असीम संभावनाएं हैं। इसके लिए इस क्षेत्र की कनेक्टिविटी को सुधारना बहुत जरूरी है। पश्चिम बंगाल के हर हिस्से को रेल सेवा से जोड़ना ये हमारी प्राथमिकता है। इस समय पश्चिम बंगाल के अलग अलग हिस्सों में करीब 50,000 करोड़ रुपए के प्रोजेक्ट के लिए स्वीकृति दे दी गई है। पूर्वी भारत के विकास को नई बुलंदी देने का सामर्थ्य रखने वाले ईस्टर्न डेडिकेटेड फ्रेट कॉरिडोर का एक सेक्शन शुरू भी हो चुका है। 2 मई के बाद 2 मई के बाद यहां जब भाजपा सरकार बनेगी तो पश्चिम बंगाल में जो डानकुनी तक का सेक्शन है उस पर भी तेजी से काम शुरू कर दिया जाएगा। पुरलिया भी इस कॉरिडोर से जुड़ेगा और यहां उद्योगों के लिए, रोजगार के लिए अनेक अवसर बनेंगे। रेल के अलावा रोड कनेक्टिविटी को भी सशक्त किया जा रहा है। इस वर्ष के केंद्र सरकार के बजट में पश्चिम बंगाल में हाईवे का सिस्टम मजबूत करने के लिए हजारों करोड़ रुपयों की भी विशेष व्यवस्था की गई है। साथियों, 2 मई के बाद जब यहां भाजपा सरकार बनेगी तो पुरलिया सहित इस पूरे क्षेत्र में ऐसी व्यवस्थाएं बनाई जाएगी ताकि लोगों को पलायन के लिए मजबूर न होना पड़े। यहां कृषि आधारित उद्योगों को बल दिया जाएगा ताकि यहां के युवाओं को यहीं पर ज्यादा से ज्यादा रोजगार मिल सके। दलित, आदिवासी, पिछड़े इलाकों के हमारे युवा भी रोजगार के अवसरों से जुड़ सके, इसके लिए अनेक कौशल विकास पर और ज्यादा फोकस किया जाएगा।
Prime Minister Modi there addressing a public meeting in Purulia in West Bengal, and he was talking about how the TMC, the present government there in the state, is playing with the aspirations of the people. He was also saying how the BJP government has worked, towards the water woes, solving the water woes there of the people as far as dealing with water scarcity in the area is concerned. And he was also in fact assuring the people there that once the BJP comes into power after the elections are held, it will take forward the development agenda, the development work across the state. We'll keep getting you more updates on that, but time now for a short break. We are back with Self-Reliant India after this short break.
The changing world of news. Headlines that you wake up to. News that shapes your day. Stories that matter to you. The latest and most accurate updates. A fresh start to a new day. The Breakfast News, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. on DD India. Your window to rising India. India's voice on global platforms. Latest news from India and around the world. In-depth analysis of global headlines. Watch DD India in your country. Available for downlink in Middle East countries. STTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 17 at 93.5 degrees east. HDTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 10 at 83 degrees east. For technical details, scan here. Switch to DD India now.
Welcome back after the break, and let's continue once again going across to our guest. Mr. Dutt was making a point earlier. Mr. Dutt, you were talking about how there's been innovation and of course capacity building. You were making an important point before we had to go across to that live of the Prime Minister. Please continue that point of yours.
Yes, I will start with where Prime Minister said. He mentioned about the dedicated freight corridor project. And this is a very major initiative. As you know, current dedicated project is being constructed from Ludhiana to Khurja to Sonnagar. Its extension up to Haldia and up to Kolkata is just starting, and it was a major announcement in this budget. And if I take you to the National Rail Plan, it says that the rail share, which I said is dwindled to 27%, should be increased by 2030 to 47.5%. And
Okay.
along with it, it should be the supply on demand in railway. If you want a ticket, there should be no waiting list. If you to make your traffic, the rate should be available on demand.
Right.
So commitment to that level has happened, and this is the innovation.
Okay.
The
Absolutely.
today's policy announcement of innovation, separate sector, parcel sector. See, empty direction there is a capacity. So it should be utilized.
Okay.
Container. Now container we account for only 5% of the share of the total cake of railways. Now it should increase because this is the biggest contribution to logistics where goods is loaded in your warehouse
Right.
and to export or go to another warehouse or to your house. So this is a type of thing which was missing, say logistics chain. This
Sure.
complete logistics chain. So incentive in containers, incentive in other things. But basically what I say, the capacity enhancement,
Right.
which has been the step which was
Sure.
long overdue, has been taken by this government, and this is going to change the map of India. And
Okay.
because we are at the center of the growth of the world,
Sure.
this is going to change the map of the world as far as
Okay.
emission is concerned, climate change is concerned.
Okay, all right. Let me go across now to Mr. Mishra here. Mr. Mishra, taking forward from what Mr. Dutt was saying, what's your analysis and comment here as far as the innovative policies in the Indian Railways are concerned? And of course, would you say unprecedented growth, in the development of infrastructure, innovation, the capacity expansion also of the network that has been witnessed?
Absolutely, no doubt about it. In fact, if you compare the figures, figures are startling. To take a period, let's say 2009 to 14, and after that, the sort of a watershed year after this present government has come, and the figures are quite revealing. Annually, the annual capex in the railways used to be the range of about 45,000 crore or so. Now it is the current year in the budget it has been 2,15,000 crore or something. For the average, something like 1,15,000 crore or something. So this unprecedented focus on capacity enhancement, as Mr. Dutt was saying, and it takes time to really complete projects, and the real the key in project completion is that you should never starve it of funds. So what the government has done, and especially under the leadership of our Honorable Minister of Railways, what we have done is we have assessed what are the critical and supercritical projects, what are the projects that can immediately add capacity, be it passenger or freight, and what can immediately give you to the clusters of the freight growth, like the ports, the mining clusters, industrial clusters.
Right.
So those projects have been prioritized, and it has been ensured that the fund shortage is not there. So the progress of project is also showing in the because of the, that is one part.
Right.
The other part is that while the whole country was battling the COVID-19, and
Absolutely.
I must tell you that when March 19 when the lockdown was announced,
Right.
there was a lot of despondency in the minds of the people, including those of the railwaymen.
Sure.
Because all on a sudden, no passenger train was running, and of course, freight trains were allowed to operate. But how will you operate when the ancillary services like the road transportation to feed the loading and unloading operation, the terminals were not there. So in that kind of a situation, again, I would give a lot of credit to the leadership.
Right.
Honorable Prime Minister himself.
Sure.
He coined the word of COVID warrior for railwaymen, which boosted their morale. And our own minister, who probably, I don't know how innumerable meetings he took with the stakeholders,
Right.
including right to the divisional railway managers.
Sure.
He said, this is not the time to rest. Let us forget about the bottom line, provide services which the country needs. Because when the
Absolutely.
country is totally mortally afraid of getting out, let us get out and provide the service that the country needs. So
Absolutely.
during those 3-4 months, I think our railwaymen, on average, railwaymen worked harder than usual, and then we provided some of the services we never thought that we would ever provide. You know, only one or two coaches of parcel vans to run as a train to take medicine somewhere, or somebody is saying that I want to take equipment test,
Sure.
like all those the medical equipment that were needed for COVID fighting.
Absolutely.
So that I have to take
Right.
it to a laboratory. What we did is that even our goods train
Sure.
drivers,
Right.
we said that you take it and then reach it to the laboratory there.
Okay.
Those kind of things we started doing.
Absolutely.
We ensured that there is no shortage of coal for the power houses, so that the country
Well,
never
absolutely.
failed.
Railway keeping the national supply chains running. Let me take that to Mr. Watts at this point. Mr. Watts, your comments here. The year gone by, 2020, the most challenging one perhaps in the recent history, has been termed as year of great and victories there for the Indian Railways. And the COVID challenge there was met head on. Mr. Watts, you would agree. The railways there keeping the national supply chains running, transporting migrants back home, in the COVID-induced lockdown. Your comments here as far as the policies and, the progress that has been made in the Indian Railways in the last few years.
Yeah, starting with COVID, I think Railways did a fantastic job. I can say that as a journalist who has looked at the sector and as an ordinary citizen of this country. Because we had come to a stage where trucks were not moving, farmers, vegetables were rotting on their fields.
Sure.
And it was the Indian Railways which took the initiative. One of the list of innovative things which the Railway Minister Piyush Goyal spoke of in Parliament the other day was about how much the Railways has done for the farmers.
Right.
Trains, especially for agricultural produce, and even the regular supply chain. But for the railways, there could have been, serious hunger and deprivation. There was nothing moving other than in the railways. So that was truly remarkable. And I'm also told that because train services were sharply reduced during the lockdown period and the COVID period, railways had this brilliant idea that when trains are less, we can do much more maintenance. Because otherwise, you have to slow down the train,
Sure.
take a particular section.
Right.
I'm sure the railway officials would know that better. But I'm told by my friends on the railways that they really use that time to do heavy duty maintenance. And that is showing results. It's if you see the number of accidents, and it's been more than a year, I think, since there was any fatality in the Indian Railways. So overall, the old cliche of turning a crisis into an opportunity, that was, I think, a reality of the Indian Railways.
Sure.
They really did well. And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said that, the opportunity was used. So how would you sum it up, Mr. Watts, this COVID opportunity, how was this used to lay the foundation for future development works?
Yeah, this is very important because if you look at, say, the safety things that have been done, getting on board many more agricultural commodities into the railway system, and therefore getting farmers on board.
Sure.
This is a part of a strategy of thinking out of the box, because there's a particular way the railways have been run. And as a railway user, particularly in the past and not in recent years, I can tell you the basic service provision of railways since the 70s, to which my memories go back, till a few years ago, had not really changed. It is the same kind of coaches, the same kind of dirty railway stations till a few years ago, the same reluctance to travel by train because you don't get a ticket. As one of our co-panelists said, that you should have tickets in demand. I think that's going to get increasingly important. And I say that because, if, say, a family of 4 that owns a car has to travel, say, 300 kilometers from Delhi, whether it is Chandigarh, Jaipur, Agra.
Sure.
It is faster and cheaper than a Shatabdi to use your own car. Faster because, if you travel by Shatabdi, you also add the time taken from the margin you give to reach the railway station and then there. So, these are challenges, particularly if you see the rate at which highways are expanding. It is absolutely fantastic. And that's also another great story for the country. But if in a few years you're able to drive to Amritsar in 4 hours and Dehradun in 2.5 hours, that is going to be a challenge for the railways.
Okay.
So in that context, the initiative to speed up trains, that's a fantastic initiative. That's going to be much more important. And coming back to the link with COVID, this has been a phase where railway officials who are ready to think out of the box, who are ready to say, okay, something's been happening for 50 years, perhaps it can happen differently. I think they've had a voice and they should be encouraged further.
Okay. All right, so let's take that to Mr. Dutt. Mr. Dutt, so one concern that remains here is the speed of the train. So, we are sure that work must be on and underway on that front. So, if you could also share more about that. And, what would you say as far as these innovations and transformations that have taken place on the ground, how have these really ensured the next level of traveling experience for the passengers?
See, this is the age of disruptive technology. From typewriter to computer is the disruptive technology. Under the present leadership, I will share 6 examples of disruptive technologies where Prime Minister was himself present to share, and 5 which are coming. First was the large-scale capacity augmentation. As Mr. Mishra said, the incomplete project was completed, reviewed at Prime Minister's level. Second is 100% electrification of Indian Railways to be achieved by 2023. No country in the world has ever thought of this, which has been done and is a reality. Then is diesel to electric loco conversion. Prime Minister was dedicated this thing in February 2020 to the nation. First time any country in the world has done it. Then 12,000 horsepower locomotive coming from Madhepura, world's most powerful locomotive made in India. And then I will say right powering of the locomotive, you have the Corona period, Sheshnag, Vasuki, 3.8 kilometer long train hauled by 6 to 8 locomotives distributed over this. So this is the example of the disruptive technologies which have, but the challenge is very great.
Right.
If railways want to do under the leadership to increase the market share of railways from 27% to 47%, you must double your output every 5 years. And saying this is a very big challenge. So these innovative policies which are being announced are for immediate gains, because now we have to achieve a target by 2024. Then another target by 2030. So how it is being, but it is say increasing the speed. The National Rail Plan says from existing 25 km per hour, goods train will increase to 50 km per hour. The train of the speed of passenger trains from existing 140 will be increased to 200 and then to 225. So these are the disruptive changes which must come if we have to achieve what we have announced. Now, what is going to come which is announced? Say aluminium alloy coaches. You save 13% power if you go from steel to aluminium alloy. Modern coach factory Rai Bareilly will only produce aluminium alloy coaches. But think more what happened in Corona period. We have India's first multinational in railway sector. They acquired a European companies who make coaches for world's fastest train TGV, and for Pune Metro, aluminium alloy coaches are being supplied totally as Bharat made in India. So these are the example of the innovations which will come.
Sure.
And then we have further increase in speed. Now, increasing the speed has got many components. Many technological breakthroughs has to come. How we increase on the existing track, and what was achieved in Corona period. See, tracks are overloaded. You don't get time to maintain it. So when tracks are available, all works which were pending, major initiative. And in a Corona period, as Mr. Mishra said, when there was a logistic problem of the food, all workers, even contractors workers were given shelter, and it was seen to it there was not a single case of Corona. Avoiding 100% COVID cases, achieving things and doing those things which were pending on 5 years, 7 years, because the tracks were available. So these are some of the achievements which has taken place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mr. Mishra, let me come to you now. How would you say that with these transformational changes in planning, the management systems and the processes, the foundation has been laid for progress for the many decades to come?
Yes, what has happened is, of course, some figures will always be instructive that you have achieved great growth. But the question is whether this growth will endure or it is just a flash in the pan. No, but my take is that the way we have gone about it under the leadership of our honorable minister, who has I think, taken how many meetings I cannot count. What has happened is it has been drilled down right to the front line of our railwaymen that our job is to satisfy the customer. You have to understand what he needs. You have to go to him, talk to him, solve his problem. So this is a sort of a cultural change, a mindset change that we have worked on.
Okay.
That is why I have no doubt that what we have achieved during this period, which is very commendable. In fact, up to July, we are running, a running deficit every month. We had, in fact, up to July, we had almost 73 million tons of deficit compared to the previous year in loading. But after that, every month has turned out to be the best ever month in the history of the Indian Railways. Not only for, we surpassed the loading that we did last year or year before that. It happened to be the best year or ever in the history. And now this has happened, and this has happened despite our losing a lot of our loading in the mainstay categories of coal or petroleum, where we lost almost 53 million tons.
Sure.
Even then, now we have across the last year's loading, and all this loading has come from a diverse basket, very diversified basket of commodities. Most comforting for us is that our business development units, which we have set up in the zonal railways and divisions, they have reached out to the customers, and they are getting traffic which never used to come to railways at all,
right,
or which had been with the railways long time back, then had deserted railways. So cotton, industrial salt, you name it, sugar. So this kind of traffic is coming in a very big way. So this is a very comforting sign, and I would think that this kind of enthusiasm which has come in the field and the energy that has been injected, that will take railway to the next level. And the dream that we should get our rightful share, like in a big country, that we should have at least more than 40%, 45% of the freight market. That is achievable.
All right. All right, with that, we're taking a short break here, but we are back and discuss more as far as the innovative policies and the progress made in the Indian Railways is concerned. We're back with more. Stay with us. Welcome back to Self-Reliant India, and let's continue our discussion. Let me go across once again to Mr. Watts here. Mr. Watts, we were talking about how during the COVID-induced lockdown and during that challenging time, which is, of course, been talked of as a year of grit and victory there. Let's talk about the rail freight operations here and how those have led to, the national economic recovery post-COVID. What would you say?
It's had a very significant contribution in the economic recovery because you got national and international supply chains in every sector of the economy. And the moment there is a lockdown and goods stop moving, it comes to a grinding halt. And therefore, there was a severe downturn in the economy. And when things start getting better, one of the key things to give confidence to the manufacturer, to the supplier, to the buyer is that, okay, goods will move. So that's one part of the story. The other part is, when a giant organization like the railways starts working properly, it triggers a lot of economic activity just out of its own operation. It consumes materials, it consumes metal, fuel, various things, which starts various other factories to start running or increasing capacity because the demand is coming from the railways. When people start traveling, it generates demand for taxis, for food, for within the travel facilities.
Sure.
And therefore, railways, it becomes a locomotive for economic growth for the country. And if you get this right, the economic growth is certainly better than what it would have been without the railways functioning properly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mr. Dutt, I would like to talk here about the public-private partnership. How would you say, the PPP has helped in the running of trains and the station development? They're getting a massive boost, in the policies that we have seen being formulated by the government for the railways.
Oh, yes. See, the type of investment which has taken place, 1 lakh crore per year and plus, it has been possible with the help of public-private partnership.
Sure.
And this is going to a new level. See, station development, work of operating the train reception is the highly technical work. But other facilities like providing food, vending, facilitation are the areas in which private partnership or public-private partnership is best achieved. Now, the type of station redevelopment which has taken is unprecedented. Our train stations, many are already world class, many are going to be world class, and better thing is the load on the revenue for maintenance is reducing, because when you go to public-private partnership, what can be offloaded, which is not to the core to railway operation, is achieved. So that way a lot of progress has been achieved. Second thing I would like to say capacity building. Track. Now we have western dedicated freight corridor where double stack and even these limited triple stack containers are running, and we have world's highest OAT ever made to accommodate this. So these are the disruptive changes in the for achieving short-term capacity gains which have been achieved. I will give you one more disruptive change example.
Sure.
Since 1980, there has been policy of railways to run only block rake, so that the traffic which is non-block rake will not come. I think the policy became obsolete by 1987 because here even the food grains, even the vegetables were running railways, and we had the 80% share. Now this Krishi trains, Kisan specials, where vegetables is going, and earlier it used to go in 1950, 100 kilometers. Now to go from east to west in refrigerated containers, refrigerated vehicles is going back to where we should have been. So this is a type of using technology, using refrigeration techniques, air conditioning techniques, going out, aggregating the things and taking it with the most economical transport. It will help it. I will quote you a figure. In USA, logistics cost is 8%. In India, it is 13 to 14%. Why it is so? Because you are so much dependent on road. Once you go to railways, once you aggregate, this will come down, and this will make our product competitive, our services competitive, and that is the need of the hours to grow further.
Okay. Mr. Mishra, I want to focus on the use of technology now. How would you say that the use of technology has ushered in an era of transparency in all the areas of management and the operations of the Indian Railways?
In fact, railways has used technology to the largest extent that is possible among public organizations. To see our, the passenger reservation system, which probably the biggest and the largest in the world, and which works so well. And now you go back to the days before the 80s and now compare. You just sit in the comfort of your home, and at a click of a button you can book your ticket. And similarly, our even their own recruitment for the railway jobs. This has totally now gone online. The railway recruitment boards are now conducting totally online examinations, absolutely transparent. And our tendering system also has totally gone on the e-tendering system. So you take any facet of railway working, we have used technology, and this is not a not the end state. We are still evolving, and we have lots of plans how to take it further and use artificial intelligence and to solve our problems. And especially, I would like to tell you that we have launched a very great portal called Freight Portal. Here, if you once it's a almost one single window where a customer, if he wants to carry something by railways, he doesn't know anything about railways, you will find a solution to that. If not, at least the moment he gets into that, somebody in the railways will come to know that there is a potential customer who wants some service, and one railway officer will talk to him.
Okay. Okay. All right. With that, we're taking a short break here, and we come back and discuss more on this subject. Stay with us.
Namaste land.
Marhaban ila al-Hind.
India.
Salam India.
Namaste India.
Namaskar Bharata.
Nous sommes l'Inde.
نحن هنود.
India.
Ma Hindi Hasti.
Mung Hindian.
Salam Hindustan.
We are India.
Your window to rising India. India's voice on global platforms. Latest news from India and around the world. In-depth analysis of global headlines. Watch DD India in your country. Available for downlink in all Southeast Asian countries. STTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 17 at 93.5 degrees east. HDTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 10 at 83 degrees east. For technical details, scan here. Switch to DD India now.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching Self-Reliant India here on DD India. Let me go across now to Mr. Watts here. Mr. Watts, over the years, you would also agree that there's been an enhanced focus on the safety in the Indian Railways. I also have stats backing us here. It says ever since April 2019, there has been no passenger fatality in the train accidents. So clearly, a lot of focus there on enhanced safety of the passengers in the railways. Mr. Watts.
Yeah, that's a much needed focus, and it's a clear success story, for the last a year, a complete success story. And even before that, the accident fatalities had started falling. So there are two things here. One, the challenges keep increasing. There's much more pressure on the system. You have the same number of kilometers of lines, and you try to pack in more and more trains, more and more goods trains. There is a challenge of maintenance, which, as we discussed earlier, the COVID period was used to, grab the time and maintain and upgrade the network. So that side is there. And the other thing is, for some kind of historical reasons where railways, the country is very passionate about it. We've had a period, you did have a movie where there was not a train in it. So trains are much more in the limelight. But, if you compare the safety record of the trains with the roads, I think it is fantastic, because on highways you have regular accidents. You don't even get to know about it. If it is somewhere in the north, maybe a newspaper in Delhi will have it. If it is somewhere in the south, a newspaper in Chennai or Bangalore might have it. But routine number of accidents is so high there. So it's something I think railways has to be particularly proud of, because it is a jam-packed network. It is choking. There are all kinds of trains started, historically over the previous decade, simply because the railway minister belongs to a particular region. So you have one more train. Any train passing his constituency railway station has to stop there, even if it is a a small place and the train is traveling across the country. So,
Right.
and plus, the appointment system in the past, anybody is posted somewhere, somebody may not be very good in safety technology or safety systems, but because he knows somebody and wants to be in a particular location, he gets posted there. So they've been very challenging, and despite those challenges, I think Railways has done very well.
Okay.
And the last year it's absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely. And I also want to
Hats off
take
to
your
them.
comments, Mr. Watts, on freight. Would you say that's clearly moving India's economy, and Railway has prioritized, has actually embraced freight on priority policy there. We have seen the business development units also there being set up. There's also the timetable parcel services, but clearly renewed focus on freight that's moving India's economy.
Yes, it's absolutely important. As a fellow panelist said, one of the reasons logistics costs in India is higher than the United States is that a lot of road transportation is used. And that's the correct direction being taken by the railways, that you have to get the freight traffic back on railways, because it is, the fuel efficiency of railways, it is green, it is clean, it moves much more freight for much lesser energy. So that's absolutely important. But again, you need to have a clear customer orientation in that.
Sure.
And the railways, the officials need to realize that, a lot of new initiatives that they take, they're very strong, very welcome. But, a large part of the effect would be to arrest the departure of traffic from rail to road. Now, you need to be much more committed and passionate to actually not just arrest it, but start winning the traffic back. And there, I think COVID has been a opportunity they grabbed pretty well, because people tend to have some kind of inertia or go in momentum that we are sending it by train. There's a clear system, there is an agent, there is a trucking company or whatever, and you keep doing it. There's no need to change. Now COVID forced them to change, and they have tried out the system. So it is the duty of the railways, and I'm sure they're doing it, to make sure that these new customers they've got, you really service them well. Don't deal with them in a with system-oriented, inflexible, bureaucratic way. I'm pretty sure they're not doing it. So, but these are things I need to do, and we are in an era, as again a fellow panelist said, that in an era of disruptive technologies. So, if Railways is trying to win over the truck traffic, there are truck companies who have invested a lot of money in trucks.
Right.
They'll be aiming to do the opposite. So it's a very competitive world. So far, railways have taken very good initiatives, and I'm pretty hopeful they will succeed. And once these dedicated freight corridors come up, it will get even better. But they have to bear in mind that the first steps of success they take in this should not make them complacent. And realize that every successful step would mean a more competitive response from the road transport companies.
Absolutely. Mr. Dutt, if I can come to you, if you could share, what more work has been done as far as modernization of the coaches and, building more powerful engines is concerned, because one of the data points suggests us that India produces the most powerful railway engines.
Yes, very right. And that too indigenously and at the most competitive prices in the world. Our locomotive produced at Madhepura Electric Locomotive Works are costing some 38 crores per locomotive, while the world price is some 70 crores per locomotive. So this is that sort of, and this is achieved by Atmanirbhar Bharat. All components, all auxiliary components, from transformer to traction motor to electronics, everything is manufactured in India. So it is not only competitive here, it will be competitive in the world. Where you say that the cost of production in India is higher, here is the example where you have lowered the cost, you have beaten the world competition, and I look forward to exporting these things across the world. I'll give you one very small example. See, when you go to shopkeeper now, he says, sir, this is the normal fan, it will consume 65 watts. This is the new BLDC fan, this will consume only 35 watts. Now, in Indian Railways, we introduced BLDC fans as started in 1998. And by 2008, 100% fans which you come across in the coaches are the BLDC fans. So, Earlier it was consuming some 65 watts, now it is consuming only 35 watts. And not only that, if you see the research papers of IIT, research papers on the world, they say if it further electronics, you can go down to 23 watts.
Okay.
So this is the type of innovation which has been achieved where Indian Railways is leading. And I can tell you, this BLDC fans which came in railways in 2008, now the Indian standards have been revised to include this, and the rating 5-star rating revised to include this.
Yes, sure.
This is the sort of contribution where railways, say, all along, say, railways has been the social change in every generation. I take you to Shastri Ji's time. Earlier it was used to be Hindu Pani station, Musalman Pani. Shastri Ji said no, in India there will be one Pani. One social change.
Right. Mr. Dutt, we have almost come to the end of the show, and before we have to wrap up, I want to take very important point here, and that's on the Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign. They're getting a firm footing. So let me take your comment first, beginning with you. How would you sum this up? All these steps, initiatives being taken has given a massive boost to the Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign, because data also suggesting us that import has reduced to less than 1.6%. Mr. Dutt, beginning with you first.
Yes, starting. Say in Indian Railways, it has always been Atmanirbhar Bharat. You see small units. Say a small switchboard, you will purchase from some imported. Which if you see, it is made in India. It is further like the incentive to startups, incentive to small scale industries, medium scale. Say most of the industries in supplying to railways are small scale or medium scale. Very few large scale industries are supplying to railways. So that ecosystem which has been generated has to be taken to other industries also. And what I will say, our manufacturers, small manufacturers who are giving these products for coaches, for locomotives, for railways, should be given incentive to bring it to market to other consumers also, to increase the profitability of the small manufacturer, to bring the quality and to reduce overall import in India where it is available, and which is the essence of Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Mr. Mishra, your comments here, the Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign getting a firm footing, all these steps giving a massive boost to the Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign.
In fact, I absolutely agree. In fact, railways have done, has taken this call of Honorable Prime Minister for Atmanirbhar Bharat very seriously. And as you have already mentioned, the import dependence of railways is almost negligible. And slowly we would try to rather become net exporter in terms of railway technology rather than small amount of import that are doing.
Right.
And one great giant leap that we have taken in this direction of Atmanirbhar Bharat is electrification. No large railway network in the world has ever aspired to be 100% electrified, which we are doing. By December 23, Indian Railways will be 100% electrified. What it does is, you totally eliminate the dependence of imported fossil fuel, this diesel, and you go over entirely to domestically produce electricity to haul your trains. And not only that, by 2030, most of these, almost all the electricity will be renewable sources. That is our plan. So, that itself is a very great step.
Right, yes.
Second thing that we have done is, we have, unveiled a lot of policies, which will privilege domestically produced coal over imported coal. So that, you have a lot of plenty of coal in the country, let us use that coal.
Yes,
rather
absolutely.
than getting it imported.
Okay.
Third thing that we have done is, all those steps collectively, cause is that the logistics cost for the manufacturers, industrial customers comes down, so that the manufacturing competitiveness of the country is enhanced.
Okay, sure. Mr. Watts, I'll take the closing comments from you as far as the Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign is concerned. It getting a firm footing with all these policies, initiatives there being taken in the Indian Railways.
Yep, and I think it has a lot to do with having a government that thinks out of the box and is strong. And the reason I say that, early in my career in the 90s, Indian Railways made a fantastic order of very, very heavy duty European locomotives, which was a huge scandal. but they stuck to it. You never required that kind of load or that kind of haulage, but they bought it for very wrong kind of reasons. And today we are in an age where, I had the pleasure of traveling in the inaugural run of the Vande Bharat Express.
Okay.
And having traveled in trains in Europe, I can say that this was no less and in many ways even better.
Okay.
And also why I say a strong government makes a difference. I can tell you when the government said we're going to electrify the railways 100%, very, very large companies and very, very sophisticated people came to journalists like me and came up with data, spreadsheets that how it's a very stupid idea, that how you need diesel for a particular kind of operation and you need electricity for a particular kind of operation, and how globally the mix is so good and how India is going to do something horrible. So, but it's only if you have a strong government which is determined that this is what we're going to do, you can do it. And, for that, my congratulations to the Minister Piyush Goyal for this.
All right. With that, we have come to the end of the show. Thank you very much, Mr. Dutt, Mr. Mishra and Mr. Watts, all of you for joining us here on Self-Reliant India, on DD India, and sharing your perspective here. Thanks very much. Well, that's it then in this broadcast. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. We'll see you then with a brand new subject. Thanks for being with us.